Alright guys, so doing this in one video hasn't been working, so I'm going to go ahead and split it up into two. This is an Infernity deck profile. I know it looks crazy. Chillax. This isn't like the whole deck. It'll make sense in a second. Going down the deck, it's a 40 card deck, so you can ignore 18 of these 58, and specifically these last 18. Main deck includes Archfiend, Staple. This is, y'all know the deck. I'm not going to belittle y'all by explaining everything. It's pause the video if you don't know it. Archfiend, 3, Necro, 3, Avenger, 2 Avenger, Mirage, 2, Street Patrol, been thinking about 2, but keeping it at 1, Armageddon Knight, like it at 1, Grepher, like it at 1. If I ever go to a monk build, I'm going to drop the Grepher for another Armageddon Knight, but as of right now, I like the ability of pitching stuff, but I don't have so much stuff. I don't want a Beetle build with 2 Street Patrols, so I don't want 2 Greffers. I'd rather have 1 Grepher and 1 Arma. Sometimes this comes back and bites me in the butt, because, you know, earlier on, I'd rather have a stronger monster like Grepher and be able to dump stuff, and all I have is Arma. And then sometimes I'll top deck into a Grepher, and I'm like, I wish you were an Arma. So, you know, that's how I run it. As you can see, I'm not running level 2 tuner. Because of that, because Trish got banned, I don't see the special need to run it. The main thing that I would do is go into Mistworm, which is not nearly as good for my purposes, because then I'd go into Trish in order to I would go into Trish in order to clear some of the field, whereas with this one I would Mistworm, which means the Mistworm only helps if I'm hitting multiple monsters, especially Synchros and Exceeds. So, you know, I'm keeping Mistworm to go into because I can still use Avenger, and I can use Archfiend or one of these guys. I have 6 level 4s, and I can go into it with an Avenger, no problem. But, you know, it's not the same as I don't need a level 2 tuner anymore. As such, if anyone needs a Bryo, hint hint, Brandon Wheeler, zombies, I may drop Bryo out of extra, if anyone needs to borrow it. That's my monster lineup, other than the fact that I'm only running 2 tuners, standard. My spell lineup's a bit less than standard. Let's go over the standard stuff first. Launcher, Staple, 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 Staple at 2. I have the third one inside, so don't even worry about that. Less stapley stuff. Duality, still fairly staple in most decks. Not always in Infernities. I've gone with a hybrid build of Duality Inferno. I haven't named it yet, but I might call it something like Dual Infernos. And, you know, my deck, in honor of my bro Zach, it will always be known as Brofernities. Duality helps add consistency. Rhoda adds consistency, lets me go for those guys. Not a dead draw anymore if I'm out of them because of Inferno. I mean, there's still those awkward situations where I've drawn into Arma and Grepher and Rhoda and not Inferno. I hate it when that happens, but it hasn't happened more than once, I want to say, if at all. Chalice, it's my stand-in for Valor. It's a quick play, so it's kind of like Valor in that. I would test Fiendish Chain if it wasn't a $30 card. I don't want to have to get 2 Fiendish Chains when I can get 10 Chalices instead, or 6 Chalices instead. Because Chalice is 10 and Fiendish Chain is 30. And Fiendish Chain is a good card, and I would totally get it if it was 10 to 15 still. But it's not worth it to me at 30. I'm happy with Chalice, because if my opponent retains priority and wants to banish with BLS or something like that, I will Chalice, and the 400 attack doesn't even make a difference because they can't attack anyway. That's how that works. If anyone at DNA tells you otherwise, you tell them they are wrong. It's a condition, not an effect. Trap lineup, triple barrier, obviously. Break, I've been thinking about putting a second break in. Inferno, really like it at 2. May try out 3, but most likely going to stick it at 2. Bottomless, may drop these to the side and put in Compulses instead. Call the Haunted, pretty good. Got abuse with not only Armageddon Knight, but especially Archfiend. So it's also ditchable with Inferno. It's any card that's ditchable, but I often find that I'm ditching calls with Inferno early on. or even mid game. I'll even do that because I don't always need call, but I always need stuff in the graveyard. So I mean, if call is completely dead to me and I can't target anything with it, I'll ditch it for Inferno, obviously. Stapley. T-Trib is really good in this deck because you get your Archfiend summon and you get to search and you can still blow up the field and loop a lot easier. So I've been thinking about putting a second T-Trib in for the next format. Mirror Force staple. The Transmigration Prophecy. This is a really good card because the least accessible zone right now is the deck. Because you can go into the graveyard with ease. It's much easier to go into your Banish now because of Leviathan. Your hand is always there, your field is always there. But if you send something to the deck, it's much harder to deal with. That's why Trap Dust Shoot was so broken. Not only was it a free look at your opponent's hand, so they knew what to expect, but it took one of your monsters and sent them to God knows where. And it's that's why searching was so important last format, because Trap Dust Shoot was running around. That's why TKRO was so good in combo with Trap Dust Shoot. That's why Transmigration Prophecy is so good, because it's just like a Crevice from the Different Dimension or even a DD Crow, spot removal from the graveyard, but instead of banishing it just so they can get it back, it's back in their deck and they have to waste more resources to get it out. That's my main deck. The main things that I'm thinking about changing it, I've already said, would be maybe these bottomlesses. Because there's not a whole lot of heavy changes in this, I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and I'll explain all this random bull crap down here, and I'll go into my side and extra. So that's this video. Go ahead and watch the next one if you have time for it. Hopefully it won't be too long.